Welcome to Underrated Cinema.
The best movies you've never seen.
Probably. Today we have a very special guest with us. It's our own mother.
Yay, Carla Thomas. As, according to our rules, if we have a guest on, we let them pick the film. So this is a very special film pick from our mother.
This is called Cabin in the Sky. It's a 1943 special, all-black cast, directed by Vincent Minnelli. In fact, it was his first direction, period. It was a musical, and he did many other musicals.
Let's hear it for those Minnelli heads in the audience.
Yeah.
Anyone a fan? Post it down in the comments. You know what to do.
Oh, also, I'm Vienna Thomas.
Oh, yes, this is Vienna Thomas, my co-host as always. And I, of course, am Tommy Gotham.
Automatically, Mom steals the show.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Awesome. So tell us a little more. Why did you pick this film?
It's a sentimental favorite of mine. It was done towards the end of World War II. And so what they were focusing on, the directors, the musical talent at that time, was on uplifting because many of the people that were involved in film in Hollywood at that time were overseas. It was the end of the war, but they were still there. So Vincent Minnelli took this on, partnered up with Busby Berkeley for musical and dance, and it has a collection of the most incredible jazz musicians and dancers of that time period. It's just an art piece that must be enjoyed.
Absolutely. I know in our household it's been played multiple times. We're very familiar with it. It's got Duke Ellington, Eddie Rochester Anderson, Ethel Waters, Lena Horne, and Louis Armstrong. Am I forgetting anybody? I mean, there's a long list.
Yes.
It's a star-studded movie.
Butterfly McQueen, too,
Yes.
if you remember from Gone with the Wind.
Mm-hmm. And so we open on kind of a people entering a church, and already we got gossip going about little Joe's coming back to church, and so that already sets up our character. We know, okay, so this is kind of a shock, maybe we got more of a troubled character than the preacher and the deacon. Is it? Yeah, preacher and the deacon start talking. They're like, hey, where is little Joe? We heard he was coming.
If he done backslid, he wouldn't pay no mind to a deacon. You better go yourself.
Perhaps you're right. Petunia felt so sure of him this time.
And that's where we meet another one of our main protagonists, Petunia, played by Ethel Waters.
Seem like happiness is just a thing called joy.
Just the most beautiful voice. Oh my gosh. And she's in love with little Joe and has faith in him, even though he gets into a bit of mischief, gets involved in gambling and that kind of thing. But she has faith that he's going to fight it back, and she, just to have a little insurance, prays that he loses every game he gets involved with.
So we find out that he's got a gambling problem and has had a gambling problem for a long time. So that's where those prayers and possibly part of the problem come from, if he's always losing every single game.
Yeah.
But he just got a job at the new hotel in town, and they are, in fact, going on to church.
We open up with him. He's kind of peeking through the window, and he's talking to Petunia, and he's like, hey, I found some Calamity Cubes, and he's talking to her, and he's like, I am struggling to throw them away. And she's like, well, baby, just the fact that you're talking to me about him has shown improvement. So he really is a character that's trying to get away from this lifestyle, all this gambling and this kind of sleeping around and stuff. He's trying to get away from it and give Petunia the love she needs, but he's still struggling because he's, 1 foot in this world and 1 foot in the other, kind of thing.
So then he gets tempted away from church by some guys that he owes a debt to. And they say, okay, very classic, one last score, and we'll wipe your debt for you. We want you to play this Domino Jackson. Is it Domino Jackson?
Yeah, I believe so.
I thought it was Domino Jones. It's something like that. A common name.
Domino is the name.
Yeah.
Play this guy, and they go, okay, well, you're going to be playing with our dice. Then we go into the barroom scene. There's quite a ruckus. We've heard a gunshot, and it turns out little Joe has been shot.
He is at death's door. So right away, the devil sends his dark angels and his son to gather up little Joe, and all the while Petunia is praying mighty prayers over Joe, just in hopes that God will give him one last chance. So hearing her prayers, down come heavenly angels, and the battle ensues for Joe's soul. He has one more chance because of her prayers to prove that he is worthy of going to heaven with Petunia, because otherwise they are sure they got him in the bag.
Oh yeah, Petunia's his saving grace, so to speak.
Yep.
And what I really like too is like we have these already established characters. We got the shady characters that are little Joe's, I wouldn't say friends, associates. Mm-hmm. And so you see them again also playing the role of the Lucius Jr. or Lucifer Jr., who is the same actor as little Joe's friend, Lucius.
Right.
And then we have the head angel, or the general, I believe they refer to him as, and he is the same actor as the preacher. So we get very, already very, very familiar symbolism going in. It's like, okay, these characters are good, these characters are bad. Whether you see them, whichever character they're playing, it's pretty dang clear. And so they make this wager. Little Joe's got 6 months to pull it together. And of course, the angels and the devils are going to be essentially on his shoulders, whispering things to him, trying them to steer him to one side or the other.
And so he comes back to life, and he doesn't remember anything, but he's still kind of on the kick of doing good. Like, he still wants to do good. He still really wants to try and change. And meanwhile, the angels and the general and stuff, they're kind of guiding him, but lightly. And then Lucifer Jr. actually sends in, what is it, a lotto ticket? Or
it's the Irish sweepstakes.
An Irish sweepstakes ticket. So little Joe gets it, but he thinks it's an ad for something. He just crumples it up and throws it away. But Lucifer Jr. actually has a secondary plan, which is to bring in one of their favorite temptresses.
Georgia Brown.
Why don't we mosey round? You could be cozy round a gal who could sprinkle you with spice.
To kind of sway him back to the side of the, back to the bad stuff.
And boy, is she, flirty. Is one of my favorite scenes is when, we got Lucifer Jr. goes and visits her. And of course she can't see him, but he's like planting these little things. He's like, I wonder what little Joe's been up to. You always did like him. And you can just see her thinking like, maybe I will go see little Joe. And he's like, all right, put on your best perfume.
Yep.
And, that cute little dress. And she looks good. She looks fantastic. She moseys on over to his work, and that's where she finds the sweepstakes tickets. And that's what brings her to the house. And so anyways, she's doing her thing, very being very salacious. Come on, like, let's have fun, trying to tempt him. And he almost caves, but he's got this great song, which may be my favorite song.
The old Devil Consequence.
Yep.
Yeah.
Devil Consequence.
Because we got this soft kind of alluringness from Lena Horne.
Life's full of consequence, but who's scared of consequence?
Yes.
And then we got this hard, very cut and dry, very strong, bolstering voice that almost is shouting at her from Eddie Rochester Anderson.
Life's full of consequence, that old devil consequence.
And it is kind of this parallel. It's like, look, doing the right thing is hard. It can be rough. But it is this little back and forth that I absolutely love. That's probably my favorite song.
Yeah. So he resolves through that, and I have to agree. I think that's close to my favorite song. I'm trying to think. I know it'll come up later, but so he's trying to do good, and so finally through the song he boisters enough strength to essentially tell her, no, I can't do this. I can't be like this. I respect you and I care about you, but it's just not. It's not an option. We're not doing this. And then she presents him with the winning ticket. And he goes, what's this? Oh, I saw this. This was an ad. Don't worry about it. And she goes, no, it's not an ad. You won. And he looks at it and his eyes go big. And the first thing he starts thinking about, which is adorable, is how he's going to take care of Petunia. How he's going to start giving her all the things that she wants, all the stuff that she needs. And then in appreciation, he grabs up Georgia Brown and grabs her by the arm. And he's like, you are the sweetest lady ever. Thank you for bringing my attention to this. I'm going to make sure to get you fancy dresses and all that stuff. And of course, Petunia starts coming up to the yard at about that time. And so she only sees him grabbing up Georgia and making promises. So she thinks that he is just going right back to his old ways.
And she has had it.
Throws them out. Yes, she's had it, throws them out. And it's a total shift in the show because now Petunia remembers Joe. She's still reminiscing, but she's brokenhearted. And of course, Joe has no place else to go but to the devil's own Georgia Brown.
Yeah, so at that point he's lost this love that has kept him fighting against his vices, and you see it's a great example of a broken man who doesn't look like a broken man. He is just finally given in. So he's now well known at the salacious gambling house, the bar in town. Georgia Brown, the dresses, the marabou shawl. Costuming in this movie, I'd give a foot to just have it.
Yep, and the lace. Because all of a sudden now Petunia's given over. She's surrendered a little bit to the dark side, and now they're beginning to suspect maybe they'll take hold of Petunia as well. Pretty good plus in this master plan. So there's lots of music and dancing, and I want to mention that somewhere in there, one of the wicked angels is none other than a young Louis Armstrong playing his trumpet very sweetly.
You cannot miss that voice.
Oh, no.
That was perfect. Yeah, and so one of the parts of when Petunia shows up to the bar, it has been exactly 6 months since he was given his chance. It's also, there was another timer running. The man who shot little Joe, he spent 6 months in jail. So he's out and he's showing up on the town. And he's showing up to that bar to see Miss Georgia Brown again.
Oh, yeah.
And a fight once again ensues when he turns his affections from Georgia over to Petunia.
Oh, no, ma'am. The drinks is on me.
You know, Mr. Johnson, I usually don't drink with strangers, but we have so much in common, we both dislike the same people.
Who has shown up once again. Gorgeous dress. Beautiful. I'm obsessed with the fashion.
Yeah. Yeah, so and Petunia, she's she comes off as wholesome and sweet, yet throughout the movie she shows that she's no fool and she's no stranger to this kind of behavior. The two guys that tried to get him to play the dice, that get little Joe to play the dice, actually show up at the house, And she kind of goes, now, you wouldn't take advantage of somebody that doesn't know how to play dice now, would you? And he goes, oh, no, assuredly not.
Of course not.
So they're playing, and they give her a few test rolls, and she's like, a 1 and a 1, is that good? And they go, afraid not. And she goes, okay. She rolls again, and he goes, a 1 and a 2, that's pretty good, right? And he goes, nope, that's bad again. She goes, okay, I tell you what, why don't you roll this time? So he rolls, he goes, okay, but we're putting money on it. So right as he's rolling, the dice hit the ground, she snatches them up, and she goes, you know what, I changed my mind. I want to roll now. Let me do this, and stuff. And what she knows is that he pulled a switch. He switched these bunk dice for cheater dice and stuff. And so she rolls. Sure enough, she gets a 7, takes his money, and then she puts her eyes on the other guy, and she goes, essentially, are you going to give me that money now, or do I have to make a fool out of you, too?
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. She grabs up his money, she rolls the dice, and she gets like a 13 or no, an 11.
An 11.
Yeah, she gets an 11, so she wins again.
Switch dice on me, will you? That's the stuff you've been pulling off on little Joe. Now get out of here, you two chisels. If I catch you here again, I'll set the door on you.
So she does have this streak of maybe this past maybe suggesting that she does kind of come from a similar past as little Joe, and she was able to break out. But it's kind of beautiful that when these two people break apart, it's not only little Joe had a moral compass in Petunia, but she really relied on little Joe to keep straight as well. Because when they're apart, like you guys said, she shows up at the club, trying to get little Joe's attention, make him jealous, and she starts flirting with Domino, who had shot him, and she knows it.
But ain't you the gentleman that used my ex-husband for target practice 6 months ago?
Yes, I had that pleasure.
Then permit me to buy you a drink for that good deed.
Although I never felt like that was truly her being lost. I felt like it was a game to try to save Joe one more time, But it's kind of up for debate on that one.
Yeah.
Because she comes across also as such a strong long-term woman of faith, her prayers, and the captain of the angels, or the chief of the angels, is always talking about how she has a direct connection, and how she's kind of tapped into the mind of God, in her prayers, because she knows things. She knows what's going on with these angels,
There's actually even a scene where we got the angels and devils talking, and she's praying in the background, but then there'll be a break in the conversation. It directly correlates to what they're talking to, and devils are like, how does she know what we're talking about? That's cheating.
Hey, that's an inside line. You can't do that.
That's cheating. So she, needless to say, has a really bad experience that night. Domino gets a little handsy, and that's what makes me think that she's not fully in on this sinning thing, because instantly she's like, little Joe, come back to me, come help me. She was here for him. And there's fighting, and all this ruckus goes on, and she goes, God, strike this place down, and a tornado pops up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Got nothing on The Wizard of Oz. Got nothing on this movie.
Well, it's got color.
Yeah, it's got color. That's right.
That's the most that I would say for sure. But let's not start a heated debate on Cabin in the Sky versus Wizard of Oz. That's for sure. There's merit to both.
The battle is ensuing.
The tornado touches down. The place is being ripped apart. People are running left and right in panic. You see a broken Lena Horne staggering out of the building, or I should say Georgia Brown, really staggering out and rethinking her ways. She's not sashaying across the floor anymore. Petunia runs up the stairs, and a symbolic staircase toward heaven, and little Joe runs after her, and they both are shot down. And so they're both heading to their
projected places she's going up, and he appears to be heading down. But there's some conversation amongst the spiritual, these angels and devils, that fact that Georgia Brown, who took half of the winnings, got given that by Little Joe, actually had donated it to the church, all of it. And she has gone into repentance and prayer, and now is leaving the devil's army, and they're very upset about it, because this is a triumph for heaven, in which case it's a triumph for Joe, and Joe is heading upstairs with Petunia after all.
That still doesn't quite balance the books. It's Petunia that pushes it over.
That's
she
true.
says, you know,
That's true.
I always knew I'd be with you. I never thought I'd be without little Joe. She says, I'm not asking you to take him in, but please don't separate us.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems
That
to be,
was it.
the answer is you go back to this broken staircase from the building being torn apart, and all of a sudden it's got all these little staircases going on up into the clouds, and that's our final shot. You know, we have beautiful happy ending, beautiful music, amazing dancing. If you're into dance, you want to know some history, boy howdy, this is where a lot of the staples of many dances, in fact the moonwalk, shows up in it too. If you keep your eyes open, there it is right there. So a lot of this dancing is very culturally significant and has affected on in through time too. You know, and again, that's Busby Berkeley was known for song and dance, big spectacular shows. So there's so much to enjoy in this movie. So guys, why is this an underrated film, and why should more people know about it?
Mom, you want to take the lead on
Yeah,
this
You know, I have never been able to figure out why it was so underrated. It is phenomenal. The music, to me, is perfection. And the jazz of that time, the music of that was so rich. And to have so much talent in one place, I don't know that it was quite done in any other movie or musical before or since, to have those many talents available all at once for one film. I mean, the two directors alone are phenomenal, like you said.
Oh, yeah.
And then to have the likes of Louis Armstrong and Lena Horne and Eddie Rochester and
Duke Ellington.
Exactly. And Ethel Waters. Oh my gosh, I could cry every time I see that movie. And I do own this movie. A really unusual thing too. I've had film classes in college where none of my teachers, nor did any of the lists in the instruction books, ever contain Cabin in the Sky. And that just blows me away. And every time I went about writing a review to turn people on to this music. And what ended up happening as the teachers at that time had to own it, just like me. Once they got attached to the storyline and the richness of the cast and so on, they had to own it too. And so that is many of the attributes on the side of why we should have it, recognize it, why it didn't win any awards, I have no idea. But it was amazing, and it was groundbreaking being an all-black cast, too.
In 1943.
In 1943. So, I'm sorry, I kind of took it over.
Nice. This is your pick. You know the most about it. This is important information for us and the audience. So, if you guys get a chance, we found it on YouTube for rent for $2.99. We highly recommend. If this sounds like it's up your alley, give her a chance. You won't regret it at all. And join us next week for Sucker Punch.
Woo!
We're gonna bring it up to a little bit more contemporary. Now, with that one, I would say trigger warnings are there is some violence, so I wouldn't say exactly graphic, so more comic book violence.
I would definitely say for sexual assault, because that's like a big theme
that's a
in
big
it.
one.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's really disturbing. Sexual assault and like tempering with free will in it a lot.
Yeah.
Will make you really uncomfortable if you don't like asylum setting movies. This one is not going to be, because it's all about these gals finding escape from this asylum and kind of being in their heads and stuff. So if you're squeamish around that stuff, or you had bad experiences or anything, yeah, definitely give it a little bit of a wide berth, because as much as it is artistic, it really hits heavy with some of those themes.
Doesn't pull any punches.
No, it doesn't. But it's a really fun visual treat. It's it's kind of a wild ride. The whole thing feels like a music video. So it's really fun to see, and it's just fun to see what they can put on screen, you know?
And with the ways they find ways of doing it too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much, Mom, for joining
for having
us.
me.
You were our very first
Thank
guest.
you.
All right, thank you, and we'll see you next week.
Yep, we'll see you.
Bye.